and welcome to Dialogue. Delegates from across China are gathering in Beijing for the annual Two Sessions, a key political event which will shape the country's policy direction. The event will unveil economic and social development plans for the year and demonstrate how Chinese system works and serves the country's 1.4 billion people. What are the main focal points of this year's Two Sessions? How will China set its economic target for 2025? And how will the country address both the internal and external challenges ahead? Join us for our discussion today, live from Beijing. I'm Xu Qinduo. Joining me today are Professor Liu Baocheng from the University of International Business and Economics, Professor Witman Hung, co-founder of Shenzhen Zebra's technology setup Acceleration Limited, and Carl Fey, Professor of Strategy at the BI Norwegian Business School. Welcome to Dialogue. Witman, I will start with you. I know just now you were the deputy to NPC, 13th NPC, let's say, and you know the Two Sessions very well. I think it's getting increasingly familiar for a lot of people about this phrase, Two Sessions. What are Two Sessions and how important is it to China and probably beyond?
I think the Two Sessions is one of the most important, I would say, political events in the year. It basically started the year to basically receiving the report of the government from last year and also approving the plan and the budget for the coming year. It also sometimes passed some very important law or legislations about, and also the CPP, the consultative committee will also give advices. So I think it's the most important, I would say, event in China that will set the scene for what is going to happen in the coming year and also the year beyond.
Baocheng, turn to the question to you. What is the focus of this year's Two Sessions? What are the priorities for the Chinese, the delegates, the NPC members, of course, and also members of the CPPCC top advisory body? When they look at China's development for 2025, what are the top issues here?
Taking into consideration of both domestic and global situation, the top priority is very clear, is that China is spearheading into high-quality development, by which we continue to support the cutting-edge technology innovation, and then how those innovations can be physically and materially applied to boost the Chinese high-end manufacturing side, and how those technologies can be applied to revitalize the Chinese rural development. And the other is that to build a unified and coordinated the national market through regional integration, and that's something on the top agenda also. And to ensure that our economy continue to grow by around 5%. This is really the target that can lead to the centennial goal for China to go for a prosperous society. And then, there are a number of other social programs that can be addressed, like, how we can really improve our demographic structure by supporting more of the young parents to grow their next generation. Then how to take care of the growing elderly generation. And then against the global volatility, China, on the one hand, is trying to beef up its self-reliance. However, we continue to open our door further by allowing more of the sectors for global participation, and also by working more closely with the Belt and Road countries, with the regional comprehensive partnership, particularly with ASEAN. And also we are there to deepen our collaboration with the entire European countries, so that we can really mitigate some of the shock waves that Donald Trump administration is being producing.
Yes, we will touch upon that challenges, of course. Witman, earlier you said that, as long as there is a target, the Chinese nation will achieve the target. Of course, last year we saw the growth of 2024 reached its target of 5%, around 5%. Actually, it's 4.96, for example. But this year, many believe the target will remain the same, basically around 5%. Are you confident we can achieve that kind of growth for 2025?
Yes, I think 5% is probably a reasonable estimate. But quite frankly, looking at the economy such a large scale, if it deviates a little bit, I don't think it's a major issue. The main thing is we still have growth. Okay, so if it drops to 4.5, if it grow to 5.5, it doesn't make much of a difference. And the main thing is we need to first regenerate the growth engine. And also, I would think one of the focus points I'm focusing on is more on the technology development. I think, with all these geopolitical issues and in the past on chips and AI, and then the introduction of DeepSeek, I really look forward to see how China can really advance a bit more in the area of technology. And that is more important, I would think, than just a 0.12% of the GDP.
I think the key is really quality growth, which means that we paid a substantial price in our labor dividend, in environmental burden by growing our manufacturing industry. If you look at 20 years ago, and right now, we are there to balance the environmental control versus the production efficiency. We are also there to bring more social harmony by supporting more of the social welfare, including the workers' environment, etc. So this is something that we are really aiming at for. If we really set aside the environmental consideration and also human care consideration, we could have grown a lot more.
A lot faster, more
faster. So therefore, this is really the quality we are really looking at. And also, we are looking at more of the added value, both in our domestic consumption and also in our export.
Yes, very comprehensive target over there. Carl, welcome back here. So what are the top issues you are looking at for this year's two sessions?
Well, I think there are a number of things that are important. One is to increase consumer confidence. And President Xi, for example, meeting with business leaders recently is one of the things I think that helps with that. A second is to try to deal with the real estate crisis, which has been problematic. I also think there's going to be a big focus on trying to increase the private sector and make it on equal par with any other sector, and also to try to cut down on barriers between the different provinces in China, something that many people don't realize has actually been rather significant.
Let me turn to Witman. You mentioned about you're looking forward to new policies, support policies from the government, in particular to the tech sector, high-end manufacturing, AI, quantum computing, for example, advanced chips. But before that, Witman, you mentioned the DeepSeek. That's a breakthrough story in terms of AI development over there. But what's the like the analysis? What's our understanding? Why is it is possible even for the Chinese market to produce a startup like DeepSeek despite all the pressure restrictions from Washington?
Well, I think first of all is we do have a very large population base, which means we have a good supply of talent. Okay, and then the government have been putting a lot of emphasis on both the education and R&D section. And another thing that is unique to China is that we have a good ecosystem. On one side, we're seeing companies competing with each other, but on the other side, they're also helping each other. Okay, I mean, obviously, DeepSeek is a unique case, but in some of the other areas, for example, in the like electric cars, or EV, for example, right? We now have the largest EV production in the world, and it's not just one company or one particular technology, but it's an ecosystem. Okay, so talent move from company to company, but then they keep what they have learned from one company and move to the other. And then because we also have a very large domestic market, that helps. I mean, because I come from the technology industry. The most important thing for technology development is that you have a large enough market that you can test out your products and then refine it, improve it, and then launch it again. So, and that is what is, I think China is unique, is that we have such a large domestic market. We are able to test and improve any technology that is at the beginning.
Baocheng, as Witman said, we do see the China market. It's a bit uneven. We have problems like in the property sector, local government debt issue, for example, all those challenges. At the same time, we do see breakthroughs like DeepSeek, and also in the entertainment industry. If you look at the Naja 2, the second, right? Yeah. It's a wonderfully top quality movie. Welcome not only in the domestic market but around the world. How do you make of this phenomenon?
Well, this is the Chinese path of development because one is that the different stages have been carved out in terms of the social and economic development. So, for example, in terms of the regional imbalance, because we started with all those pilot zones and then gradually we proliferate with more of the successful experience to the central and western part of China, and including the border area with our neighboring countries. And so this is really a gradual process for us to really to share the prosperity across the country. And the other is that in different sectors, we have different type of rules to first to ensure that our industries can continue to grow, being free, or at least there is a buffer against the predatory competition. So therefore, certain industries are opened first, like the garment industry, textile industry, electronic industry, etc. And then gradually we move more to the high-end manufacturing, to the high-end service, and no more into telecom and the financial marketplace, and now more of entertainment, tourism, and even education. So this really a gradual approach, and it drives some of the potential investors impatient. But this is the national strategy. We really wanted to keep the bird flying, but within a measured the range.
Measure the range there. Baocheng, of course, you mentioned about the comprehensive issue. Obviously, the government was fully aware of the problem since September last year. We see the government, taking policies basically to ensure a stronger growth probably in the third quarter, for example, to make sure the government we will achieve the target of around 5% growth, and we did that. Let's say December, a Central Economic Work Conference, the Chinese government, is to adopt a moderately loose monetary policy. I think that's a continuation of supporting to solve some of the problems. So this is a change, people say, of the 14 years practice of a prudent approach in terms of interest over there. How big a change is that?
Well, in a universal terminology, it is quantitative easing. So therefore, the quantitative easing must be really supported by targeted stimuli into certain projects or certain industries. So it is very clear that quantitative easing, first of all, is really to shore up the Chinese economic recovery and inject more confidence into both investors and consumers. And it's also there to alleviate some of the burdens in the real estate market, where young couples can buy their houses with lower threshold of the installment and down payments. And then it's more there to continue to improve and elevate the Chinese infrastructure so that connectivity can be better improved, particularly to support the central and western part of the area so that they share the same level of development with the coastal area. And then much of it is really to support companies to trade in their old equipments into cutting-edge equipment so that they can increase the quality and also the productivity of their operation. and also to given that we have a drain in our demographic dividend, so much of the automation and also even robotization are being also introduced, then so that we can really earn more space, so that people can receive more of the job training and even formal education expansion. And this way, we are able to support the research. And the government has also realized that we are shifting gear in our subsidies. We used to support more of the skill operation in the production side, but more money is now being supported according to WTO rules to support the research and development. Also to support, of course, the consumption and build more of the infrastructure to support a high quality development, for example, to build more of the charging posts for the electric
EVs,
vehicles.
Right, yes.
So these are really a more comprehensive approach, but that's there to show that China does not only have the economic resilience, but also we are looking at a prospect of a promise to further to sustain our high-level growth.
Witman, we mentioned about this, the science tech sector, the development of there. Of course, mostly if you look at Huawei, if you look at DeepSeek, Noja 2, etc., it's all from the private sector. I think these developments just demonstrate how important, critically important to the Chinese development economy. I mean, the private sector is. And of course, top leaders, including President Xi Jinping, personally met with top executives from those companies, Huawei, Alibaba, DeepSeek, etc. And also we know that we are in the process of making the law, drafting a law on the protection or the promotion of the private sector. What's your understanding of that? I mean, what needs to be done, and also to further develop this sector here?
I think it's a very positive sign, a positive message. I mean, there has been always some, hesitation in terms of the private sector when we're talking about in the past few years where people were a little bit hesitant in the sense that, is it going to be more, state-owned enterprise, basically dominating the market? I mean, I think this meeting that the President Xi met with this private sector sends a very positive messages that the private sector economy is and will remain a very important part of Chinese economy. And if you think about it, I think I always came from the private sector, and I was always being technology investment. I think private sector is where the innovation is, because they have no boundaries, they have no rules, they can do all kinds of things. And also, of course, we're seeing one company, DeepSeek, very successful. Maybe there was 100 other companies that tried to invest but failed, but that's okay. That is the beauty of private sector.
Right.
Because if you're the state enterprise, you're not allowed to fail, right? So you have to be very prudent, always. But in private sector, people their risk capitals, like from people like myself, we invest in this kind of companies, not one, but tens and hundreds of them. And at the end, some of them will be successful, and those successful ones can then be applied and replicated in the whole ecosystem.
Well, Carl, if you look at the Chinese industry, in particular the private sector, what do you expect, or what do you think the government need to do to support them, for further development there?
Well, I think there are a couple of things. I think one thing is the education system can use continued reform. There's been good progress here, but I think that there's been so much focus on memorization, not enough focus on creativity and innovation, and now wanting to have this big focus in China on high-quality productive forces and innovation. We need to encourage already from the first grade people to be thinking very innovatively. This is one thing. A second thing is that I think it's really important to continue to reform the IP protection. There have been great progress in recent years in this area, and many people outside of China don't realize how much this has improved. Now you really can take someone infringing on your IP to court, and you have a reasonable chance that you're going to win that. But the settlements are still too small, and so they need to increase the settlement amount of that. So I think these are two important areas that could use some work.
If you look at, of course, beyond DeepSeek, beyond Naja, we know that, for example, in Hangzhou, people are talking about like at least six private companies. They are good at different sectors, including robotics there. What would you say, in terms of the Chinese high-tech sector, the top-end manufacturing sector, for example, how promising probably are they in terms of producing something new and, of course, injecting vitality and growth to the economy?
Well, I think the high-tech sectors are continuing to have increasing attraction. In China, there's been a lot of investment into education in these areas to develop, for example, many engineers. There are now a smaller number of people going abroad to study engineering as a show of how much things have improved in China. And I think the government has also, prioritized certain tax incentives and so forth in the high-tech industry. So I think high-tech industries are set to continue to increase year by year in China.
Well, Baocheng, there, of course, we talked about the property sector, the debt issue for the local government. I mean, obviously, for the central government, that's the challenges that we are to face, continue to face probably to some degree. At the same time, we do have also external challenges. For example, starting from today, Tuesday, actually, the U.S. will add this extra 10% of imports from China, and China has introduced the countermeasures to that. But how big a challenge is that, the tariffs?
I think there is some level of fatigue from the China side with regard to the U.S. tariff, because since Trump stepped into the office in his first term, we responded with the right manner as to retaliate, and in the meanwhile to negotiate so that we settled some of the dust through the first phase agreement between China and the United States. And now we get more prepared, actually, when Trump is really launching another attack by doubling down the tariff against China within a matter of less than 2 months. And this is something that China is now getting more ready to buffer the negative impact. So we are first focused more on domestic market and reduce reliance on the United States. And on the other hand, we are diversifying our market. And that is why we are strengthening our ties with the Belt and Road countries, with the ASEAN countries. And President Xi is going to visit more of those partner countries this year. I believe that that is there to build more of the trust and streamline some of the regulations, and to discuss as how to reduce some of the tariff and non-tariff barriers. So this actually, the U.S. takes the tariff as the magic wand, but China takes friendship, takes the mutual benefit as really the magic wand, so that we are able to work more closely based on trust and based on mutual benefit. And this is a more striking contrast with what is going on with the U.S. administration at the moment. And I think China should really take advantage of such opportunity to further shape its global ethical leadership around the world by promoting more of the shared future for the humankind, so instead of feeling the dismay.
Well, Carl, I mean, you understand better of the U.S., the government, for example. What's the end game? What's their goal of imposing more tariffs on Chinese goods?
Well, I should admit that I'm a Democrat and not supportive of most of the current U.S. policies, but I think the goal is that Trump believes that if you produce more in the U.S., this is a better thing, and so he wants to stimulate companies from around the world and U.S. companies to produce in the U.S. I don't think this is a good idea, because there's not a best industry to be in. It depends on the unique characteristics of a country, but I think that is what is trying to take place here.
But in the meanwhile, we should also see that the U.S. is tightening up its CFIUS review over what is called a national security, which is also expanding its it's obnoxity, and in the meanwhile, they are also there to promote more of the quick gratification by soliciting more of the rich people, not only from China but from all the world, to buy, his immigration or green card. So this is not something that China wouldn't really encourage to invest in some of the areas that looks rather weird.
Mm-hmm. Witman, do you think like we, as a second largest economy, with a large market as you mentioned, big population size there, can we endure? Can we deal with the tariffs from Trump?
I think it's going to be hard, but of course we can deal with it. But we can foresee there will be hardship. But one thing I think that's good to see is that U.S. is no longer the biggest economic partner of China, right? Now it's ASEAN countries. Mm-hmm. So the Belt and Road Initiative has really helped us to balance out. I think the relationship between China and U.S. is in irreversible, direction. I don't think it's going to get much worse, but it's not going to go back to where it was before. So really, we're focusing on the new market. You look at the ASEAN market, such a large population, a growing middle class, and they are very eager to do businesses. I mean, not just buying products, but also attracting investment from China. I think that's one area that we need to do is also not just selling our products, as exports, but also exporting, our IPs and intellectual properties, and also investing so that we can create a win-win situation that we partner with the local companies to address those markets.
Yeah, diversify away from the U.S. and integrating more with a non-U.S. partner, let's say. With that, we are coming to the end for today's show. Many thanks to our guests. You can also watch us on the CGTN app and YouTube. I'm Xu Qinduo. Thanks for being with us. See you next time.